lives on a foundation of simple, unshakable truths. We wake up, we drink coffee, we open doors, and we walk through them. We trust in the continuity of existence. We believe that objects possess permanence. We believe that if a person stands before us solid, breathing, casting a shadow on the earth, they cannot simply cease to exist. Physics is not a suggestion. It is a law. Matter cannot be created or destroyed. But there are places in this world where the laws of physics seem to bend. Places where the map is not the territory. The indigenous peoples of North America spoke of these places in hushed tones. Areas where the veil is thin, where the forest breathes, where silence isn't just the absence of noise, but the presence of something else. Imagine you are a woman prepared for war. You are fit. You are vigilant. You carry a piece of steel on your hip, a .357 Magnum revolver, a weapon designed to stop a charging grizzly bear dead in its tracks. You have built a fortress of safety around yourself. You are the predator, not the prey. And then you turn your back, just for a moment. The time it takes to check a watch. The time it takes to tie a shoelace. 60 seconds. In that single minute, the fortress crumbles. Not with a scream, not with the thunder of a gunshot, not with the roar of a beast, but with absolute, terrifying silence. On July 18, 2007, a woman named Barbara Bolick walked up a mountain in the Bitterroot Range of Montana. She walked up, but she never walked down. She didn't fall. She wasn't dragged. She simply evaporated. This isn't just a story about a missing person. This is a story about a glitch in reality. A mystery that defies investigation, defies logic, and haunts the minds of every search and rescue officer who stepped foot on that mountain. To understand the impossibility of what happened to Barbara Bolick, we must first respect the stage upon which this tragedy played out. The Bitterroot Mountains. Even the name sounds harsh on the tongue. This range forms the rugged border between Montana and Idaho. It is a landscape of breathtaking, violent beauty. When the Lewis and Clark expedition crossed these peaks in 1805, they described it as the most terrible part of their journey. They spoke of rugged and stony mountains that seemed to go on forever. Today, it is a place people go to escape, to find peace away from the noise of the modern world. But the locals know the truth. These mountains are indifferent to human life. They are vast, they are deep, and they keep their secrets. Barbara Bolick fits none of the profiles for a typical victim of the wilderness. She was not a naive tourist wandering off the trail in flip-flops. At 55 years old, Barbara was a force to be reckoned with. She was a runner. She was a hiker. She was a woman who knew her limits and pushed them respectfully. She was even taking flying lessons, learning to pilot aircraft over these very mountains. She had a sharp mind and a situational awareness that most people lack. Her husband, Carl, was a former Air Force officer. Their life was one of structure and vigilance. Carl had instilled in her a deep respect for the dangers of the wild. Barbara didn't just pack water and a granola bar. She packed for survival. And she packed that .357 Magnum. Let's pause on that detail. A .357 is not a small gun. It is heavy. It kicks like a mule. Carrying it requires intent. It tells us that Barbara was ready for the worst-case scenario. She was ready for a mountain lion. She was ready for a bear. She was ready for a human attacker. Wednesday, July 18, 2007. The day began with the deceptive calm that always precedes a disaster. It was supposed to be a large family outing. A noisy, happy group hiking to the Bear Creek overlook. But fate, it seems, prefers to isolate its victims. Fate began to subtract the players from the board, one by one. Carl had recently suffered a heart attack. He couldn't handle the altitude or the strain. He stayed behind. A visiting relative, Donna, woke up feeling unwell. She stayed behind. The group of many became a group of two. Barbara and a man named Jim Ramaker. Jim was a guest. He was the boyfriend of Carl's cousin, visiting from California. He and Barbara were friendly, but they weren't lifelong confidants. They were merely two people sharing a beautiful morning on a trail that Barbara knew like the back of her hand. The hike to Bear Creek Overlook is not an expedition. It is a stroll, less than 3 miles, about 4 kilometers round trip. It is a trail used by families, by children, by the elderly. The weather was perfect. Visibility was unlimited. They reached the overlook without incident. They stood there at 6,000 feet, gazing out at the spine of the continent. They even met other people. 2 young men passed them, exchanged pleasantries, and continued on. This confirms their presence. They were there. They were real. Around 11:30 a.m., Barbara and Jim turned their backs on the view and began the descent back to the car. The trap was set. The clock was ticking. They weren't rushing. They hadn't even gone 1/3 of a mile from the overlook when they stopped. It was 11:35 a.m. Jim Ramaker later stated they were standing only 20 to 30 feet apart, 6 to 9 meters, the length of a living room. Jim turned his back to look at a rock formation. He stood there for approximately 1 minute, 60 seconds. When he turned back, the trail was empty. "Barbara, are you there?" Silence. No crash of a falling body. No scream of terror. No gunshot from the .357 Magnum. Just the wind, returning to fill the void where a human being used to be. Jim searched. He looked over the edge, nothing but steep shale. He checked the bushes. No dropped water bottle. No scuff marks in the dirt. No gun. She hadn't left. She had ceased to be. When Jim Ramaker reached the trailhead and raised the alarm, he triggered what would become one of the most baffling search operations in Montana's history. We need to understand the mechanics of a search to understand how strange this is. In search and rescue, they work in probabilities. They draw a circle around the point last seen. For a person on foot, in 60 seconds, that circle is tiny. A radius of maybe 50 meters. The Ravalli County Sheriff's Office didn't hold back. They treated this as an immediate emergency. They deployed Phase 1 tactics immediately. Hasty teams running the trails, shouting her name. This is called a sound sweep. You yell and you listen. You wait for a reply, a whistle, a gunshot. But the mountain gave them nothing back but their own echoes. Then came the heavy machinery. Helicopters equipped with FLIR, forward-looking infrared. These cameras detect heat signatures. A human body glows like a beacon against the cold mountain earth. Even if she was injured, even if she was unconscious, the heat of her body should have been visible through gaps in the canopy. The pilots flew grid patterns until they were low on fuel. They saw deer. They saw bears. They saw rocks heated by the sun. They did not see Barbara, but the most damning failure was on the ground. Highly trained scent dogs were brought in. These are animals that can track a person days after they have passed. Typically, in cases like this, the dogs pick up a scent and follow it to a cliff edge or to a road. But reports suggest the dogs were confused. They couldn't find a definitive track leading away from that spot. It was as if Barbara's scent simply ended. Let's look at the physical evidence. If a bear takes you, it is a violent, messy event. There is blood. There is shredded clothing. There is the noise of the attack. If a mountain lion takes you, it is silent. Yes, but they drag their prey. There would be drag marks. And the gun. A .357 Magnum is a heavy piece of steel. If Barbara had been snatched, if she had fallen, the gun likely would have fallen from her holster or her hand. Metal does not decompose. It does not blow away in the wind. But not a single physical trace was ever found. No fabric, no blood, no brass. Back at the base, Barbara Bolick was watching his life disintegrate. Imagine the torture of that weight. Every time the radio crackled, his heart must have stopped. He was a man of logic, a military man in war. Things happen for a reason, cause and effect. But this was a violation of logic. That summer, the stress consumed him physically. He lost 35 pounds. He stopped sleeping. He spent his days staring at maps, trying to solve an equation that had no numbers. Weeks turned into months. The search teams went home. The volunteers returned to their jobs. The snow began to fall on the Bitterroot Range, burying whatever secrets remained under 10 feet of white silence. The eyes of the law turned to Jim Ramaker. He he was the only witness. I turned around for a minute, and she was gone. It sounds like a lie. It is the oldest lie in the book. But Jim didn't run. He didn't lawyer up. He offered to take a polygraph. He cooperated fully. And without a body, without a weapon, without a motive, the police were helpless. Was it a perfect murder? If so, Jim Ramaker is a magician. To silence an armed woman, hide her body so well that thermal cameras and dogs can't find it, and do it all in under 5 minutes without getting a scratch on himself. Was it an abduction? By whom? Was it something else? Barbara Bolick is still missing. The Bear Creek overlook is still there. Hikers still walk that trail today, stepping over the very spot where a woman vanished from the face of the earth. They look at the view. They take photos. They turn their backs. Next time you are in the wild, ask yourself, how well do you know the laws of reality? And how quickly can they be broken?